Can we get a round of applause for Blue Sky for bullying Adobe off the platform in less than one day? If you don't know why this is a great thing, let me tell you some stories. A long, long time ago, when the company was still as ethical as a corporation can be, they created two great pieces of software. First of all, they invented the PDF. And second of all, they created Photoshop. They made these technologies industry standards, and then they realized that they had every company in the world by the balls. You may have noticed it's ridiculously difficult to edit a PDF in any software not made by Adobe. This is intentional. Adobe has cemented themselves as an industry standard, and this creates a cycle where in order to get a job, you need to know how to work Adobe software. So colleges teach it, and so graduates know how to work it. And so when graduates get jobs, if the jobs do not yet have software, they get Adobe software. And then anyone else coming onto the team needs to know how to work Adobe software, and it goes around and around. And what Adobe did with this is they made it impossible to buy their software. They moved it all to a subscription service. So now if companies want to continue doing business, they need to keep buying the software over and over and over and over again at rates that just keep going up. The next thing Adobe did was they set up a platform that was, in theory, a way for people to sell stock photography. And then once millions and millions and millions and millions of images had been uploaded, Adobe was like, oh yeah, by the way, you gave us permission in the license agreement to scrape all this for AI. They used incredibly vague language before people had even heard of AI scraping, and used it to scrape all this data, and by the time people realized that that's what they had agreed to, it was already too late. Adobe then changed the terms of service to make it more clear that they were scraping for AI, and some people reported that they could not log into their account to delete their images without first agreeing to this new TOS. Adobe then began marketing their Firefly AI as only being trained on material from consenting users. In the meantime, Adobe started letting people upload other AI's AI work to this stock website. So stolen images are turned into a Midjourney image, and that Midjourney image is uploaded by the creator to Adobe stock, and then Adobe says, hey, you can use this Adobe stock image guilt-free because the person who created it consented to give it to us, cutting all these people out of the conversation. Then Adobe started changing their terms of service on their software, saying the files you open with the software might be uploaded to Creative Cloud or might be used by Adobe for unspecified uses, maybe or maybe not, including scraping for AI. Basically saying if you open an image with Photoshop, Photoshop has the ability to take that image that you are working on and scrape it for AI. And people were understandably freaking out because they opened their software to go to work for the day, and this new you have to agree to these new terms and services pops up, and they can't use the software until they agree to this. And a lot of times they legally can't. You had artists being like, I do not own this image. I have been hired to work on it by a client who owns it. I cannot license Adobe legally to use this image that I myself do not own. And there was people who were trying to open PDFs, and they're like, I cannot give Adobe just full access to everything that is in this PDF. Like, this is classified. And Adobe sure as hell wasn't vetting it. Like, this is an extreme example, but imagine you are a lawyer in a case involving child abuse, and you are opening a PDF that contains a rundown of evidence in this horrifying child abuse case. And Adobe's just like, yep, put that in the AI. Let's just let that be training data. We can just disseminate that with no oversight whatsoever. Like, people could not open PDFs. And after a couple of days of backlash, Adobe was like, oh yeah, no. We apologize for that. That's not what we meant. Here's our new terms of service, which was so incredibly vague that people could not figure out whether they were consenting to AI scraping or not. And Adobe help was no help. And then this entire time, Adobe is aggressively pushing their AI software. Now, historically, the people who most use Adobe design software are graphic designers, photographers, and artists. All three professions are in huge amounts of danger from AI. So Adobe is going to its largest target market and saying, hey, give us your work for free so that we can use it to enrich ourselves, making software that's going to put you out of a job. So when Adobe showed up on Blue Sky and it was like, hey artists, let's all be social together, absolutely everybody was like, fuck off. Adobe still has its accounts, but it has deleted all of its posts because they were just a breeding ground for people sharing ever more reasons why they hate Adobe.